Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our weekly Sunday school lesson. This is lesson 4 in our fall quarter, and the date of this lesson is September 27th, 2020. Our lesson subject today: God provides judges to help Moses, and the lesson is extracted from Exodus, the 18th chapter. There is a golden text. I'll share that with you. It really is the heart of our lesson this week. And thou shalt teach them ordinance and laws, and shall show them the way wherein they must walk, and the work that they must do. Exodus 18th chapter and the 20th verse. And so I'll briefly share with you last week's lessons, the previous lessons, and we'll kind of focus today on this week's lesson. This is not a very long lesson, but there are some very, very important points to share with you. And so we see the children of Israel in the last couple of weeks having to deal with some struggles. Their supplies ran out, and they wanted meat and bread, and God supplied that. Their water ran out, and they wanted water, and God supplied that. And they had some issues with the Amalekites and had to go to battle. And the Lord intervened and helped them in battle and was successful in battle. And so now they're transitioning, they're settling in the wilderness in this week's lesson. And we see some subtle issues, if you will. But in these subtle issues, I see God building this nation and providing structure to it. And so as we begin this week's lesson, we see Moses' father-in-law, which is Jethro. Yes, Moses was married. His wife's name was... Actually, that's a great question. Oh, that's a great question. Why don't I ask you, what was Moses' wife's name? And how many children did Moses have? Great questions, very simple, very easy. You can text me, or you can answer it on Facebook. And so back to our lesson. So Moses' father-in-law visits, and he had not witnessed the miraculous things that the Lord had done for the children of Israel, but he had heard. And so he's coming to greet them now that they're in the wilderness and they're settled. And so as he approached, he observes, and he noticed that Moses is with the people. He also observes that the people have been there from early morning to late evening waiting on Moses. And so after the day was done, Jethro sat down with Moses, and he says, what is this thing that you're doing with the people? I love this. I love this. He observes, then he asks questions. Great leadership qualities. And so Moses explained, I'm settling cases and claims and issues and problems for the people. They want to hear from the Lord, and so I'm giving them what the Lord is giving me to solve their issues or their problems. And so Jethro gives Moses advice and encourages him. He says, that's a great thing. That's a great thing that you are doing. Continue to be that advocate and share what God has for the people. However, can I offer you this advice? One, you need to teach the people what God has taught you. You need to teach them how to live and how to work. And you need to delegate, because you can't do it all. If you continue to try to hear the cases of all of these people day in and day out, you're going to burn out, and the people are going to burn out. And it's not going to be a great situation in the end, although it's a fantastic idea. Now, let me help you with this structure. Find men that are strong enough to do the job, men that will be sincere, men that are wise and are serious about helping people, and then those who will not buckle and take bribes, but love justice and hate evil. And once you find these men, then you're going to put them over 1,000, then some over 100, then some over 50, and then some over 10. What do you think is happening here? This is a Jewish judicial structure. We see a judicial structure being formed here. Levels of authority, delegated authorities, so that Moses can spend more time with the more significant issues of the group, and the men can deal with the smaller cases and the petty cases, if you will. And so this was the plan. This was the plan that Jethro gave to Moses. So you see, if I can just reiterate the structure of his advice, he observes, and then he asks questions, and then he encourages, and then he offers us a recommendation or a solution, and then he gives a plan. And so the second half of our lesson, we talk about how Moses humbly receives the advice, because Moses has been beat up on this trip. Mind you, oh my God, he had to deal with all of the issues and the complaints of these people when they ran out of meat and bread, when they ran out of water, and then they only had 24 hours to prepare for battle when they were fighting the Amalekites, and so Moses was under a lot of pressure here, a lot of pressure and stress. And so the encouragement, someone coming along to offer encouragement, not complaining without a solution. We want to sometimes come and complain and don't want the solution, or bring a solution, if you will. So here we see where Moses humbly receives the advice of his father-in-law and then implements his plan. And there are two important points I want to make. The importance of encouragement. The importance of encouragement, and the importance that shows us wisdom of responsibility of one person. One person cannot do it all. Wisdom and responsibility can be meted and shared. Lastly, God often supplies our needs through other people's ability and wisdom. So now I go to, because the writer of the lesson, I like how he puts it in his final words. He says, it is a wonderful example to us. Let us be gracious in offering advice. Let us be gracious in offering advice. Let us remember the structure that Jethro offered. Observe, ask questions, listen, then offer a solution. Encourage, that's important. Encourage, offer a solution and a plan. And let us be humble enough to accept wise counsel. So because we don't know it all. We don't know it all. And it's so easy for leaders to become burnt out, trying to do it all, trying to get it all done, not knowing how to say no, having difficulties in delegating it to others. I noticed that people are not apt to teach. What I mean by that is I can just talk about sometimes in my work group, when I see that an individual can do a I won't say an assignment, but a duty, or can do something, if you will, and they don't know how, then I instruct them. I show them because, one, that empowers them. Two, that's another person who knows how to do that duty or that responsibility, and it helps the team. And so really delegating and helping and teaching others how to live and how to work is so important, not only for you, not only for the leader, but for the entire group. We should be apt to teach. And that's why I love this golden text. And I'm going to wrap it up in this. I'm just going to read this golden text. And thou shalt teach them the ordinance and the laws, and show them the way in which they must walk and work and must do. So when you have the advice and the know-how and the wisdom, be gracious enough to share. And then when someone offers you advice and wisdom, be humble enough to receive it. So let's just see what the facts of our lesson is, and we'll wrap it up. I thank you for joining me. If you have not viewed the previous lessons, feel free to do on my YouTube page, Latanya Milliken, if it's the first time you're joining. I really appreciate the viewers. It's an encouragement to me. God bless you. It's important in this day and time. We're living in a dark time. And people need the light of salvation. They need the light of salvation. And those of us we must share the light. We must share the light by encouraging others and sharing our wisdom. And it may not always be a religious. It could be just in a natural sense or a political sense. And so be apt to share. Let's wrap this up real quick. Okay, so this week, the fact of our lesson is to clearly understand God's direction through Jethro regarding delegation of responsibility. Everyone has a role to play in the scheme of it all. Lastly, to see God's work done in God's way, and have God's support, which leads to its success. Lastly, the application of our lesson is to seek God's direction in any task he sets before us. We should always, in all thy ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct our path. All right, that ends our lesson. I'll see you next week. God bless you, and stay cool and safe.